Okay, so you want to buy a movie theater chain. Here's the paradox nobody in Hollywood says out loud. Theaters don't need the movie industry to survive. The movie industry needs theaters. And yet, in the last 5 years, one of the 6 major US chains spent a year in bankruptcy court. Another got rescued by an army of Reddit traders. And a third, 300 screens across Los Angeles, shut down and never reopened. You're not really buying a place that shows films. You're buying real estate with a 90-minute lease, run by a landlord who doesn't set his own prices and doesn't own the product he sells. Now let's talk numbers. A single-screen art house theater, the kind with sticky floors and a marquee from 1970, runs $500,000 to $1.5 million to acquire and refit. A modern 8 to 10 screen multiplex, built from the ground up, costs $3 to $5 million. Buy an existing regional chain, say 20 to 40 locations, and you're in 9-figure territory, $150 to $400 million, depending on how many leases you're inheriting. Want a top 5 national brand? AMC alone carries roughly $4 billion in corporate debt as of late 2025. That's not a typo. You'd be buying a balance sheet, not a business. And that's before equipment. Each auditorium needs a digital projector, $30,000 for a basic 2K unit, up to $80,000 for 4K laser. Add a premium sound system, Dolby Atmos style, and you're paying another $40,000 to $100,000 per screen. Multiply that across 40 auditoriums and the invisible cost of just being able to show a movie already touches $2 million. Nobody mentions that part in the pitch deck. And here's the part that never shows up in a press release. Most chains don't even own their real estate. They sign triple net leases, meaning the operator pays rent, property taxes, insurance, and maintenance, while the landlord just collects a check. On top of base rent, many deals include a percentage rent clause, where the landlord takes an extra cut, sometimes 5 to 10%, of revenue above a certain threshold. So even a theater that's technically profitable can still be handing its upside straight to a shopping mall's ownership group. Staffing adds another squeeze. Minimum wage ushers and concession staff used to be a rounding error on the P&L. Now, with wages pushing past $15 an hour in many states, labor alone can eat 15 to 20% of total revenue before a single studio check gets cut. And that's before you've paid a cent of rent. So here's what you need to know before you sign anything. You don't control what you show. Distributors do. Every studio negotiates a separate licensing deal per film, per theater, per week. And the terms shift as the run continues. In the opening week, the studio can take up to 90% of ticket revenue. 90%. By week 4 or 5, if the film's still playing, that splits closer to 50-50. This is why theaters practically beg you to buy popcorn. Because for weeks 1 and 2, the ticket itself is barely covering the lights. There's also a fee most people have never heard of, the virtual print fee. Back in 2005, when theaters converted from film reels to digital projectors, studios agreed to pay chains $800 to $1,000 per booking, per screen, to offset the equipment cost. Because sending a physical 35mm print cost $1,200 to $2,000 per copy, and going digital saves studios over $1 billion a year. The fee was designed to disappear once the conversion was paid off. It has. Which means the one subsidy that made digital projection affordable for theaters is gone, and the next equipment upgrade is entirely on you. And there's a rule that only recently disappeared. From 1948 to 2020, US antitrust law banned movie studios from owning theater chains at all. The Paramount Decree, born out of a Supreme Court case that found the 8 major studios had rigged distribution to strangle independent theaters. For 72 years, a studio literally could not buy the building you're standing in. That changed in August 2020, when the Department of Justice let the decree expire, on the theory that streaming had made the old monopoly impossible to rebuild. Which means the rule that forced studios and theaters to stay separate for 7 decades doesn't exist anymore. The next mega merger between a studio and a chain is now legal for the first time since Harry Truman was president. Now, how do you actually make money? The ticket is basically a loss leader. Real math. If a movie theater group made 100% of every ticket dollar, this would be one of the most profitable retail businesses on earth. It doesn't. After the studio split, the landlord's cut, staffing, insurance, and utilities, the average theater chain nets about a 4% profit margin on its total revenue. 4%. A grocery store does better than that.
So where's the actual money? Concessions.
A large popcorn costs the theater less than 50 cents to make. It sells for $8, $9, sometimes $12. That's up to a 1,275% markup. And unlike the ticket, the theater keeps 100% of that money. No studio split, no distributor cut. Concessions carry an 85% profit margin. Cinemark alone pulled in $1.1 billion in concession revenue against just $181 million in cost last year. AMC and Cinemark both get roughly 36 to 39% of their total revenue from the snack counter. The movie is the bait. The popcorn is the business. Now the architecture nobody sees. Premium formats, IMAX, Dolby Cinema, recliner seating exist for one reason: to justify a ticket price above the base rate, because that's the one lever theaters can actually pull without renegotiating with a studio. Loyalty subscriptions, the $10 or $20 a month unlimited movie plans, exist to guarantee foot traffic that walks straight past the concession stand. Every square foot of that lobby is engineered to convert a $12 ticket into a $30 visit. There's also a workaround called four-walling. A distributor pays a flat fee to rent an entire auditorium outright, skipping the box office split altogether. It's how niche religious films and one-off concert re-releases get on daily schedules without ever touching a major distribution deal. For the theater, it's the rare guaranteed payday that doesn't depend on how many seats actually fill. Now let's talk about who wins and who doesn't. The greatest theater-to-empire trade in history, National Amusements. Founded in 1936 as a small New England theater chain, it was run from 1959 onward by Sumner Redstone, who used the cash flow from ticket sales to start buying media companies. Viacom in 1986, a merger with Paramount Communications in 1994, Blockbuster the same year. By the time Redstone died in 2020, a regional movie theater company controlled Paramount Pictures and CBS. That's not a metaphor. The family that owned your local multiplex owned the studio that made the movie playing in it. The deal finally closed out in 2025, when Skydance Media took over National Amusements and merged it into the new Paramount. Now the failures. Cineworld, the British owner of Regal Cinemas, America's second-largest chain, filed for Chapter 11 in September 2022, carrying $8.8 billion in total debt. $4.53 billion of that got wiped out through a debt-for-equity swap with lenders, who took ownership of the company instead of getting repaid. Cineworld emerged from bankruptcy in July 2023 as a fraction of what it used to be, and its old shareholders got essentially nothing. Add Alamo Drafthouse to the list. The dine-in chain built its whole brand on premium food and strict no-phones policies. 41 locations, a cult following, and still filed Chapter 11 in March 2021 with $123 million in debt. It survived, but only because private equity firms Altamont Capital and Fortress Investment bought the wreckage and kept the name alive. 3 theaters closed for good in the process, and a planned Orlando location never opened at all. Then there's ArcLight Cinemas and Pacific Theaters, 300 screens across Los Angeles County, the closest thing Hollywood had to a cathedral, including the iconic Cinerama Dome. In April 2021, the parent company announced it wasn't reopening, ever. One single location owed roughly $2.2 million in unpaid rent from a single year of closure. The chain simply couldn't survive 14 months without ticket sales. It didn't go bankrupt and restructure, it just stopped existing. And then there's AMC, the chain that should have died and instead became a religion. In January 2021, its stock bottomed out at $1.91 a share, and the company was weeks from insolvency. Then Reddit's retail traders adopted it as a cause, drove the stock to an all-time high of $72.62 in June, and AMC's CEO issued over 100 million new shares directly into the frenzy, raising nearly $2 billion in cash from people who, by his own admission, weren't buying the business. They were buying the meme. That $2 billion war chest is the only reason AMC didn't file for Chapter 11 alongside Cineworld. A theater chain got bailed out by its own fan base. So let's calculate what you're actually signing up for. Optimistic scenario. You buy a well-located 12-screen multiplex for $4 million. Premium formats and a loyalty program push your concession share above 40% of revenue. You hit that rare 8 to 10% net margin some top-performing locations manage. Payback period: roughly 10 to 12 years, assuming no format war, no strike, no pandemic, and no streaming release window collapse.
Realistic scenario: your opening weekends bleed 80 to 90% of ticket revenue to the studio. Your margin sits at the industry average of 4%. Any 18-month shock, a labor strike, a health crisis, a shortened theatrical window, erases years of profit in a single stretch. The same stretch that killed ArcLight, gutted Alamo Drafthouse, and nearly killed AMC. Your actual payback period stretches past 20 years, if the format still exists in 20 years. So here's the punchline. You don't own a movie theater chain to make money on movies. The theater is a real estate and concessions operation that happens to rent out its floor space to Hollywood for 90 minutes at a time, and takes almost none of the ticket to do it. The smartest operator in the history of the format didn't get rich showing films. He used the popcorn money to go buy the studio.